I'm beside myself today. The cost of living is so bafflingly absurd that my roommate just decided to go ballistic at me. So basically, what we did is we sat down and we came up with a budget, right? I mean, that's just usually the obvious solution is come up with a budget. But that didn't necessarily take us all the way to what we wanted to do. So it took a little bit more in-depth communication about what was going on. For us, the plan was person with the bigger room pays a little bit more. We went with 65-35 because the size difference in our room, it just kind of makes sense to do that instead of like 60-40. So I pay 15% less, he pays 15% more for the room he wants. On top of that, we were frustrated specifically by the utility and groceries. What we did is we pool our money together every month, and then we essentially use that money to pay for utility and groceries and whatever else we deem it needed for, but mostly utility and groceries. And then if somebody doesn't like whatever we bought with the pool, or doesn't have something they want with the money we bought from the pool, then they go out and buy it themselves, because that's the simplest solution to that problem. Now, going into the actual budgeting of the apartment, we split 65-35, and just to give you an actual number here, our rent is 2,500 ish. So 2,500 split 65-35. I don't have a calculator on me. We just went over this, so I haven't done the math here. Apologize. So 0.65. This is how you calculate your rent, by the way. If you're splitting it with somebody, you do point whatever percentage it is. So for me, it's 0.65 times 2,500. 1625. So that's what my roommate is paying. I'm paying 0.35 times 2,500, and that's 875. So that is a disparaging result. I mean, he's paying damn near double what I am, right? So we'll probably go back and look at it and say, oh, maybe it's not 65-35, because that seems a little bit unfair. It is a much bigger room, so that's why we decided to do that. But I don't think that's a good personally, I don't think that's a good margin here. So let's say 40. So 0.40 times 2,500. Do I want to pay 1,000? Yeah, I'm actually pretty okay doing that. So we'll probably go with a 60-40 instead of a 65-35, because now looking at the math, I can see it in front of me. That looks a lot better, right? You have to go through these things with your roommate if you have one. I would personally plan it out before you even get a roommate or buy an apartment or rent an apartment. That way it's clarified going into that. And another big part is the utility and groceries. So I'm going to go into the pooling part of it and how that works for us. So for utility and groceries, that's costing us, I want to say, about another 500 to 800 a month. So we'll just say 800 to be safe. So we'll start out with 800. Now, you could split that in half, 400 a person. You just throw that together in a pool, but then I'm paying 1,400 a month instead of just 1,000 a month, right? And you start to see where the problem comes in. So, and he's paying, I guess, 0.60, 0.60, sorry, times 2,500 is 1,500. So he'd be paying 1900 and I'd be paying 1400. So essentially our rent just goes up by 800 bucks, which is absurd, right? And you might think, "Oh, that's that's crazy. The cost of living is high." Yeah, it is. I mean, I live in California and it's bad. 2500 is actually pretty good rent. I mean, you can't find anything for other under what we found it for in the area we live in. So, it's it's rough. I mean, we're both college students. 2500 a month. It's not easy. I mean, we got to go to class, we got to go to work, we got to I'm doing this, you know. There's not a lot of time for extra hoopla and things around that. You know, we are budgeting. We are really trying to make it work like we know we need to. And yeah, I mean, 14 and 1900 a month is nothing to scoff at. So, what I would instead recommend you do is pool your money over time instead of just looking at the whole price. What do I mean by this? Okay, account for exactly what you need. Let's say a box of Wheaties costs whatever a box of Wheaties costs. You know, I'm going to say, I don't buy Wheaties, but I'm going to say 15 bucks just to throw it out there into the world, right? Okay, well, now let's say only my roommate wants Wheaties. That's 15 bucks that we're both paying. It's not just him paying that 15 bucks, right? Okay. So what else does he want? Well, he wants Wheaties. He wants, we'll say, Frosted Flakes, which cost another $10. So 15 plus 10, you got 25, right? Do you kind of get where I'm going with this? You add up all the things you want and all the things they want, you come together on a price. So let's say the sum of the things you want, we'll say, you know, eggs, cheese, uh, seasoning, maybe, unless you already have seasonings, milk, we'll say bacon or some other kind of like ground beef, maybe. So all of those things come together for about, we'll say 50 bucks. But those are all general things. So I would give yourself about, we'll say 50 bucks leeway. You could increase or decrease that. 50 bucks leeway on both of you. And then you add up all the things you want, right? So 50 bucks plus something I want, we'll say 10 bucks, right? So my side, 10 bucks. I'd split it down the middle and put 50 bucks at the top on like a chart or something. Put 50 bucks at the top, split it, your chart, his chart, bar graph. And you want to try and keep the total under 100 bucks for the week, for the month, for whatever you're trying to aim for here. Since I'm going weekly, I'm going to say under 100 bucks. So 10 bucks and probably maybe another 5, 10. So that brings it up to 70. Well, he's probably also going to want something like that. So brings it up to 90, right? So I just brought our cost down from 500 or 800 down to 100. And if you convert that for a month, it's 400. So I've just cut it in half by looking at the numbers and properly budgeting. And to give you all the numbers, originally it was 1500 and 1000 for each person's rent for 60-40 split. One person has a bigger room, so they pay more. Then if you add another 800 on top of that, and split it between both people for util and groceries, that brings it up to 1900 and 1400. If you cut that down to 400, you got 1700 and 1200. Much more manageable. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but trust me, hundreds of dollars goes quite a long way, especially if you're spending it on util and groceries, right? So now each of you only has to make a margin of that, right? Well, if you cut it down even more to only things you need instead of things you want, I mean, you're looking at $50 a week. And then you're talking $200 for util and gas per month and or groceries per month. So then you're looking at 1600 and 1100, substantially more manageable, right? Now you're not both paying a studio apartment rent for one room. And I think by looking at things like this, going into it, actually doing the math, sitting down, I know it's boring. I know it you don't want to do it. It really helps. Trust me. You will be there. Everybody goes through that. It's normal. I'm a college student. I can do this. I don't even have a degree. You can sit down and do this. It's not difficult. It's not that complicated. Just sit down with a calculator, do the math. I just have it up on my computer right now. Okay? But my roommate, boy, he was tweaking to say the least. I mean, this guy was absolutely I don't think there's a word for how much he was tweaking it, how much we were spending. I mean, we were both basically spending 2000 a month. And with financial aid, it can be a little bit easier. Like you can get that ease um a little bit, but ultimately financial aid isn't going to solve your problems. It's honestly just going to make them worse cuz now you're in debt for the whole time you're in college. And nobody wants to be in debt. There's other solutions out there. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a guy who's going to tell you how to get out of debt, okay? If that's your problem, go watch a video about that. You know, um there's investing, there's things you can do to solve that. But in this economy, in this political state, I just wanted to go over something that I thought was beneficial to help, you know, something that I thought I could contribute, go over, ultimately just show you guys this is how I do it. This is how I can afford to sit here and make these videos. This is how I can, you know, afford to keep the lights on in college with all this stuff going on. I know it's hard. I know it's beyond you, right? But it's not. You have to take responsibility. You have to sit down. You have to really dive into it. Otherwise, you're cooked. I promise you're cooked. Anyways, that's about all I wanted to go over.